Ever wondered how to make the ultimate BBQ brisket that's both juicy and tender? Welcome to our culinary journey where we will unravel the secrets of preparing a magnificent BBQ brisket. This isn't just any recipe, it's a step-by-step guide to creating a succulent piece of meat that's packed with flavor and tender to the core. Ready to take your BBQ skills to the next level? By the end of this video, you will be able to prepare a BBQ brisket that will leave your guests asking for more. To start off, you need to gather all the necessary ingredients. Our star today is the brisket, a cut from the lower chest or breast of the beef. It's a tough cut, but when cooked correctly, it transforms into a juicy and tender delight. Next, our BBQ rub, a blend of spices that will provide the brisket with a delightful crust and a burst of flavor. Don't forget the apple cider vinegar. Its acidity will help to tenderize the meat and balance the sweetness from our next ingredient, brown sugar. Brown sugar will bring a caramelized sweetness that complements the savory notes of our brisket. Then we have garlic and onion, aromatic staples that will infuse our brisket with a depth of flavor. Finally, the BBQ sauce, the heart and soul of any BBQ, adding a tangy, smoky and sweet finish to our dish. Now that we've got all our ingredients, it's time to get this BBQ party started. The first step in achieving a perfect BBQ brisket is in the preparation. Now you may think that all the magic happens on the grill, but the truth is, a great deal of the flavor development begins right here in the kitchen with the brisket's preparation. Let's start with trimming the brisket. You'll want to remove any excess fat, but remember, you don't want to remove it all. The fat layer, or the fat cap, as we call it in the BBQ world, is vital. It melts during cooking, basting the brisket from the top down and giving it that succulent juiciness we all love. So keep a thin layer of fat, about 1/4 of an inch thick, for the best results. Next, we have the rub. There's an art to this. You're not just sprinkling it on, you're massaging it into the meat. You want to make sure every inch of the brisket is covered and the rub is well worked in. Think of it as a meaty massage, if you will. This rub, packed with spices and seasonings, is going to permeate the meat, giving it an incredible depth of flavor. Now, some may argue that you can slap the rub on and start grilling straight away, but if you want a truly flavorful brisket, here's the secret. Let it rest. Once your brisket is well rubbed, cover it and let it rest in the fridge for a few hours, or even better, overnight. This allows the flavors to sink in and marinate the meat, leading to a more robust and layered taste profile. Patience, my friends, is the key ingredient here. It's not just about the spices or the smoke, it's about giving the brisket the time it needs to absorb all those wonderful flavors. With the brisket well rubbed and rested, we're ready to move to the next step, and trust me, it's going to be worth the wait. Now comes the part we've all been waiting for, the cooking. This is the moment when patience becomes the secret ingredient. The brisket, lovingly prepared and seasoned, is ready to be transformed into a tender, juicy masterpiece. First, remember to preheat your grill or smoker to a low temperature. We're talking about 225 degrees Fahrenheit or 107 degrees Celsius if you're across the pond. Now, why such a low temperature, you ask? Well, brisket is a tough cut of meat, and we need to cook it slowly to break down those tough muscle fibers and collagen. This slow and low method will ensure your brisket is as tender as a love sonnet. Once the grill is heated, place your brisket on the grates, fat side up. This allows the fat to melt and baste the meat as it cooks, infusing it with flavors that will make your taste buds do a little dance. Next, we introduce our secret weapon, apple cider vinegar. This tangy elixir is not only going to keep our brisket moist, but it will also add a subtle sweetness that balances the rich, smoky flavors. Every hour or so, take a brush and lightly baste the brisket with the vinegar. Now, as our brisket is slowly cooking to perfection, it's crucial to keep an eye on the internal temperature. We're aiming for an internal temperature of about 205 degrees Fahrenheit or 96 degrees Celsius. This is the sweet spot where the brisket becomes fall-apart tender. Use a meat thermometer and check the temperature at the thickest part of the brisket. But remember, don't be tempted to lift the lid too often. You want to keep that heat and smoke locked in. The cooking process can take anywhere between 8 to 12 hours, depending on the size of your brisket. So grab a good book, put on some music, and let the magic happen. Once your brisket reaches the desired internal temperature, it's time to take it off the grill. But remember, our journey to brisket nirvana is not over yet. Stay tuned for the next step: resting and slicing the brisket. Patience is key in this next step as we let our brisket rest. The anticipation of tasting our perfectly cooked brisket may be building, but believe me, it's worth the wait. Letting the brisket rest is a crucial step in our quest for a mouth-watering, juicy and tender brisket. You see, during the cooking process, the heat causes the juices in the meat to bubble and simmer, moving away from the heat source, which in this case is the surface of the brisket. If we were to slice into the brisket immediately after cooking, these juices would simply flow out, leaving us with a dry piece of meat. However, by allowing the brisket to rest for a substantial period, we're giving these juices the chance to cool down and redistribute themselves throughout the meat. And this resting period ensures that every bite of our brisket is as juicy and flavorful as possible. So embrace this pause, use it to clean up, set the table, or prepare your sides. Now, once our brisket has had its beauty sleep, it's time for the slicing. The key here is to slice against the grain. For the uninitiated, the grain refers to the direction in which the muscle fibers of the meat are aligned. By slicing against the grain, we're effectively shortening these fibers, making the meat easier to chew and hence more tender. To identify the grain, look for the long lines or striations running through the meat. Make sure your knife is sharp and slice perpendicular to these lines. A sharp knife will ensure clean, even slices, enhancing the overall eating experience. The thickness of the slices can depend on your personal preference, but a good rule of thumb is to aim for slices about 1/4 of an inch thick. This thickness will hold the meat together, while still allowing it to fall apart in your mouth. Properly rested and sliced, your brisket is almost ready to serve. So get your plates ready, because we're about to move on to the final step, serving this beauty. We've made it to the final step, serving your delicious BBQ brisket. The aroma of the well-cooked brisket is enough to make your mouth water, isn't it? The moment of presenting your culinary masterpiece is finally here. Ideal companions for this tender, juicy brisket are a refreshing, crunchy coleslaw and a dollop of extra BBQ sauce on the side. The tangy sweet coleslaw beautifully complements the hearty brisket, and the extra BBQ sauce, well, who can ever have enough of that smoky goodness? It's crucial to serve the brisket warm to truly bring out its flavors. If it's cooled down a bit while resting, you may want to gently reheat it. Just remember not to overdo it. We don't want to lose any of that juiciness we've worked so hard to achieve. Consider slicing the brisket just before serving to keep it as succulent as possible. Thick or thin, the choice is yours. Just remember, the way you slice your brisket can affect its tenderness. A well-set table, a jug of your favorite beverage, and good company are the only other ingredients you need for this meal, and there you have it. The ultimate BBQ brisket that's both juicy and tender. Now all that's left is to enjoy your perfectly cooked brisket with your guests. Thank you for watching. Remember to like, share, and subscribe to this channel.